Good morning. The Inside Look is brought to you each Sunday morning by Gessel and Associates Insurance Agency, where we are very busy doing the right things for the right reasons. My name's Larry Gessel, and I'm your host. Joined in the studio today by my son, Alex Gessel.
Hello.
Co-host Michael Morris of Morris Media.
How are you, buddy?
And our special guest, Michael Evans of First Financial Bank.
Good morning, Larry.
Glad you guys are all here. Thanks for showing up. You know, our show is very special in that each week we take a topic and we kind of do a deep dive into certain things, and we really try to kind of take a peek behind the curtain and peel the onion back. And our goal really is to educate, inform, and maybe even entertain a little bit. But we definitely tackle the tough topics for sure. You know, Mike, over the last few months, we've had an opportunity to get to know one another pretty well. We run into each other at various different events that you're networked into, you know, different Realtors Association groups, and of course we're affiliate members of the Columbus Mortgage Bankers Association, where you currently serve as the board president.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Why don't you take a few minutes to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you came from, other than your mama?
Yeah, definitely highlight where you're from.
Get that genesis started there.
Yeah, well,
How you got into the business, and most importantly, how people can reach you too.
Sure, yeah. I've been kind of a lifelong resident of the Columbus area, other than just a short stint in D.C. and then also in Atlanta. I've been in Columbus the rest of my life. I'm a graduate of Grove City High School. 1987, and went to college at Ohio Wesleyan, and so proud graduate of both Grove City and Ohio Wesleyan, and have been around the real estate industry pretty much since high school. My family had a real estate title company while I was growing up, and so had an opportunity to work there during the summers as well as during breaks when I was in college, running titles and that kind of thing, and just kind of sparked a passion for real estate, and eventually moved to the lender side of the business, and have been doing that since I think 96 or 97. Actually, I think it was 94 now I think about it. And
time flies, right?
It sure does. It sure does. And been on multiple sides of the business and on the mortgage business, but where I am right now, I'm a direct mortgage originator, so I help people buy homes. We like to say that we help people build wealth through real estate, and that's my passion. I specialize in first-time home buyers. There's nothing better than going to a loan closing and you have that first-time home buyer. Maybe it's a single mom, tears running down her cheek, and
Absolutely.
she's so happy and excited.
Moment. And I know there's a lot that goes into that in terms of education. We're going to get into a lot of this, but how can people reach you? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, I'm a loan officer at First Financial Bank. My office is in Worthington. We're right next to the Worthington Mall, and the best way, if they want to call me, my mobile number is 614-327-3127.
One more time on that.
It's 614-327-3127.
We've got a lot to cover. You and I have talked about a number of things here recently, sticking with the Columbus Mortgage Bankers Association theme. Tell us about it. Who are they? Who do they serve? What are they all about? Why should the consumer care?
Absolutely. So the Columbus Mortgage Bankers Association has been around since 1950, which, for the record, is before I was born.
Okay.
But it started in 1950, and it's the only local mortgage association that serves mortgage lenders. We are mortgage bankers, and the whole idea is to have a group that together we help promote fair and affordable housing, as well as upholding ethical standards. And not all mortgage lenders are a member of the Mortgage Bankers Association. I would suggest that if you are looking to buy or refinance a home, that maybe you do take a look at the members who are a member of the Columbus Mortgage Bankers Association. They're a little bit more involved here locally in the real estate industry. They're committing time, their own time to kind of make things better here locally. So that's who we are.
We became an affiliate member as a direct result of our association with you, and we're thankful that we have. One thing that we've noticed is that as we have our monthly meetings, there's always an educational component there. The people there are very committed to bettering themselves, furthering their knowledge, and hopefully better serving their clients. So I know there's a real dedication. I also notice, when we first came in, I do a lot of studying of people and just watching, and there's a lot of camaraderie there. Some people it's a very close knit group of people, and I sense the professionalism and the friendliness, and we've gotten involved in some other things with the group, the Real Money, Real World program. So there's some outreach things that the association does. So
Absolutely.
I know the people that are members are real pros. Alex, I know there's a couple of things that you wanted to ask Mike.
So I think you started to address this a little bit, Mike. So many people like to do things online today.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say? Should the buyer shop online for a mortgage and get pre-qualified, or should they use a local lender?
There is some good information online that you can just Google different topics, and you can learn some basics. The one thing that I would caution with that is that if you're just studying certain topics, for instance, like condos, if you're thinking maybe you want to buy a condo and you just do a Google search on a condo, you'll get some information, but you don't have the context behind it. You don't have the knowledge behind it to know the different types of condos and the type of financing that's available for condos.
Right.
So I mean, there is some good basic information you can get online in terms of closing. What are the typical closing costs, and what are prepaid finance charges, and those kind of things. But when it comes to really getting serious about buying a house, I would suggest that instead of looking for answers online, that you seek out a local professional
with the market. And
Well, doesn't it kind of work like Zillow? Zillow will give you kind of like a guideline to go by, but you can't go off that. You actually have to talk to somebody. It's not like you can
Talk to
skip the
local
realtor.
folks.
You really have to know somebody in the business that can tell you the ins and outs, not just go online. Everybody looks at the ease of access more than they look at the lack of knowledge they have. You have to go to an expert to really get this done.
Well, and speaking of experts, that's one thing I wanted to circle back around to, and I meant to ask you, what is the difference? We in our networking groups we run into mortgage lenders and then mortgage brokers, I guess they refer to themselves as, and then there's mortgage bankers. What's the difference?
Well, so a mortgage banker, the loan actually gets funded in their own name with their own funds. So at our bank, we have our own underwriters and our own processors, and so they approve the loan, and then we actually fund the loan using our own bank funds. It closes in our name.
So you have your own underwriting department, so to speak.
Yep.
Everything's kind of contained and controlled from A to Z.
Exactly. And so we close the loan in our name. At our bank, we service the majority of the loans that we originate. There's only certain categories of loans that we actually sell off to another lender. So as a mortgage banker, you actually control the process. You have your own funds to fund that loan. Whereas a mortgage broker, they're really introducing the lender to the buyer and the buyer to the lender. They're not the actual lender.
Okay.
Now they'll pre-qualify the borrower to get a real good idea as to whether or not they'll qualify for the program. But ultimately, it's a third-party company that is going to underwrite that loan and fund the loan. Both models work well. They serve kind of different markets.
So if I were in your shoes, I'd be touting that seamless transaction, more personal, more direct control, yada yada yada. If I were a broker, I might be yelling that I have more funding options and more competitive rates or whatever because I have more places to choose from. Is that kind of how the argument goes back and forth?
Yeah, you're spot on with that. Mortgage brokers will sometimes, they'll have 20, maybe even 30 different companies that they're approved with.
Right.
But on one other category, as a mortgage banker, if it's a bank, there's some added flexibility where you'll have a portfolio where most loans that are originated to be sold off to somebody else. They're sold to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or the Federal Home Loan Bank or FHA, VA, or USDA. The majority of loans are sold off to one of those entities. Sometimes the servicing is the originating company keeps the servicing of the loan but sells the assets to somebody else. As a bank, we have a portfolio where we can do loans that are outside of the guidelines for those other entities.
I gotcha.
That are just we feel are good for our bank. Maybe it's a physician's loan or it's certain types of condos that are tough to finance. There's some things like that you can do as a bank when you have a portfolio. So that's kind of another area as a portfolio lender.
Gotcha.
So what are some of the top things that people would need to know during that application process, Mike? Or
Well, we're kind of getting back to the question earlier about online. One of the risks. So you know, there's a company, one in particular, that spends a lot of money advertising that everything can be done online, right?
Sure.
I mean, they spend a lot of money telling you that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And when the problem is, so you can log in at 2 in the morning, you know, to some of these sites, and you can get pre-qualified, and you get pre-qualified based on information that you put into their system. If you haven't had a conversation with somebody, there's some things that you may not know, for instance, about income. So you may have somebody that's on track this year to make $80,000, and so when they're online getting pre-qualifying themselves, they'll enter $80,000. They get a letter that says they're pre-qualified. They go to a realtor and provide that, and that realtor then makes an offer to buy a home, and they get into contract, and everybody's all happy, and now you send in documentation and you find out, wait a minute, yeah, I'm making $80,000 this year, but the lender's not going to be able to count all of that because half of it's commission income. And I've only been earning.
You mean the drug transactions don't count?
Well, yeah.
Well, if you keep the receipts, almost anything counts.
So there are some things like that unless you've had a conversation with a lending professional, you don't know. I mean, yeah, you're going to make $80,000 this year, but the lender's only going to count half of that. So I think that when you get to the point where you're serious about buying a house, you really need to seek out a mortgage lending professional, a local
guidance.
mortgage professional, as well as a real estate professional, a local real estate professional.
I think that's wise advice.
Well, I like that you said that because there's a lot of people that are doing the FISBO. They're trying to represent themselves because the market's hot. So they think I'm going to keep that realtor commission and I'm going to sell for what I think it's worth, not what the market will bear, right? So I think when we're talking about real estate transactions, just because the market's hot doesn't mean that you know how to sell it. You don't know the right people to go through for the brokerage. So I think it's a good thing that you said that because I see a lot of for sale by owners, and those things are sitting in there 34 or 40 days. They become a realtor's listing pretty soon when that person can't move.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great point. There are a lot of pitfalls along the way that if you haven't done it, you know, on a regular basis, and if you're not a professional, you just don't know that, you know, what pitfalls there are and the trouble you can get into. On the buying side, you know, there's some things that you could maybe put into the contract that you've never heard of. Maybe you're not even aware that sometimes you can get the seller to pay some of your closing costs, you know, and having a real estate professional work with you, they can kind of help guide you to, you know, to place an offer that'll be accepted, that'll have the seller paying some of your closing costs.
Absolutely.
Well, and then you also have the request for remedy and things. A lot of people are waiving home inspections.
Yep.
You do it on your own and you don't realize you need that. You could end up in a world of hurt.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And on the buying side, you know, a lot of people don't realize this, that it actually doesn't cost the buyer anything to have a realtor working for them for full time. That the commission that's being paid is on the listing is coming from the seller. The buyer doesn't pay the real estate agent. So there's commission that's being paid on that transaction. Sure. And if a realtor brings a buyer to the listing agent, then that commission there's a split for that commission. But if they don't bring it, then the listing agent keeps the full commission. But as a buyer, it doesn't cost you any more or less to have a realtor working for you. In fact, I would make the argument it can cost you a lot more if you don't have a realtor, because there's some things that you don't know that can end up costing you money.
Yeah, good point. And speaking of money, what are some of the other costs that are associated with a mortgage loan? What kind of things do people typically get into? You get into appraisals, obviously. What else? Points.
Well, yeah, some lenders will have points to lock the rate, which is a percentage of the loan amount. So there are lender fees. There are loan fees. The loan fees are going to be appraisal. A big part of it is going to be title. A company has to search the title to the property to make sure that number one, that they truly own it, and then also, you know, what liens are on the property, what liens will need to be paid in order to transfer title to the buyer, and And so those are some of the bigger costs involved with buying a
It's
house.
an amazingly complex transaction. You know,
It
when
is.
when you look at it
Yeah.
from start to finish, there's a lot of professionals that need to be involved, and a lot of intertwined pieces, if you will. You know,
You're spot on with that. I you know, as soon as a buyer and a seller decide that, hey, we want to do this transaction, there's a whole lot of people that now start working.
and I never realized how involved the title people were, and that could be a topic of an entire show in and of itself, and probably should
Yeah.
be. But it's really quite amazing, because I guess they're kind of the ones, the air traffic controllers, that kind of bring everybody in for the landing, so to
Right.
speak, at the end. But I never realized, and you started out in that kind of in that
Mhm.
arena. So
Yeah.
you know, we were talking about the other day again about the various different types of loans, and I wrote some of these down, but you mentioned conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, USDA, and several other programs that even have zero down payment options, and there's a lot of assistance. There's OFRA, I think you called it.
Yeah.
OFA,
Yeah.
Ohio Housing Finance Assistance, and man, there's a lot of different programs out there, and with rents being so high as they are today, we're hearing that your phones have been ringing off the hook with rates being low with refi, and people that have been renting are now maybe thinking about buying for the first time. Could you talk a little bit about all that?
Absolutely. So there are, and that kind of gets back to the whole talking to a local professional. If you talk to the 1-800, get a mortgage people, they're not going to have access to the local down payment assistance, to the local programs. They're not going to know the local market. They're not going to have relationships with local realtors. I'm here to tell you, it makes a difference. If you're in a competitive bid process, and there's two offers, and the real estate lender or the listing agent sees one offer, and it's East West Southwest Oklahoma Bank, but they've never they don't know anybody there, but they had the lowest rate online on that particular day, and so that's who the buyer applied with. And then the other one is a local mortgage banker that listing agent knows and has done transactions with. And if all else is equal, or even close to equal, it's very likely that listing agent is going to choose the offer from that lender that they know, as opposed to the out-of-town lender that they've never heard of.
Interesting.
If they call in, it's a call center. You can't get somebody live.
Right.
There are a lot of
Ease of doing business
Yeah.
is important in every aspect of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ease of access, ease of doing businesses.
Yeah,
Paramount.
and as a local lender, there are a lot of us that are very involved locally with the Columbus Realtors and their local associations, and so realtors see us on a regular basis, and I think that makes a world of difference. But the different types of loans, so there are many different loan programs. You need to talk to somebody, talk to a professional that knows those different programs, that has access to those different programs. And one of the biggest things, so we were as president of the Columbus Mortgage Bankers Association yesterday, we were at Columbus State, and they were having a housing fair. And we were there just volunteering time, talking with students. These are all students that are looking at maybe being real estate investors or realtors or even mortgage lenders. So they're interested in real estate in general. And I asked on a regular basis, I would ask the students, how much do you think you need to put down to buy a house?
What was the common answer?
The most common was 20%.
My parents are going to give me the money.
Yeah.
Well, I'm only saying that because if you look at the housing market where people are getting money, the 11th largest amount of money that's being given is by grandparents or family.
Mm-hmm.
So the younger generation is being blamed, but we're the ones giving them the money to do this. But they're going off that 1980s, early 1990s, 20% down to avoid PMI. I didn't mean to cut you off, but you were making a great point.
Yeah, so everybody, all but two said 20%, one said 10%, and another said 5%, but even though he said 5%, it was more of a question, like he wasn't confident in that answer.
He was real high on his hand. 5?
Do you guys here know what the answer is?
No, what is
How
it?
much do you need to put down as a...
It depends.
5%? Well, so it's a little bit of a trick
The
question.
true answer is it depends.
Exactly, you're exactly right. It really depends. If you're a veteran and you have VA benefits, you can put 0 down. If the property is in an area that qualifies for USDA financing, again, you can have 0 down.
Same with FHA, correct?
FHA,
Local incentives.
FHA is 3.5% down.
Okay.
Conventional is 3% down, but for both conventional and FHA, there are local down payment assistance programs that if you
Right.
don't have the money to put down, you can quite possibly get qualified for down payment assistance. And I always tell people, if you're currently renting, you're already paying for a mortgage. You just don't know it.
You sure
Exactly.
are. I always thought that a great opportunity for a young person starting out would be to find a double, live on the one side,
Oh,
rent out the other.
absolutely.
That's a killer deal.
Yeah.
But they're hard to find too.
Oh,
You try to find a double around Columbus right now.
Yeah,
It'd be
yeah.
as expensive as a house payment anyway.
Yeah,
Investors gobble those up for sure.
you bet
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah.
But you're right, because I mean, here's the other thing. Like, if you do want to get into investing, if you were to buy a double, you live on one side, you have a renter on the other side. That renter's going to be paying a portion of your mortgage, right?
Most of it. Yeah.
And at some point down the road, you can actually turn that into 2 rentals,
Sure.
right? After
Absolutely.
you've lived in it for a
Yeah.
while, you can now turn into 2 rentals, and now
Move
you have
on.
2 different renters that are
Use
paying
the
your full
equity from that
mortgage.
one to fund the next one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. But that would be one of the things that if I'd want people to take away from this, if you're looking to buy a house, or you know somebody that might want to buy a house, and you think the biggest barrier is the down payment, I'm here to tell you there are programs. There's one where the income, you can earn as high as it's $92,000 a year and still qualify for down payment assistance. So there are a lot of programs
That's great.
available that you just have to talk to a local lender that has access to those programs.
That's great.
And Mike, so people are saying this is a really hot market. Everywhere we go in our networking groups, our realtor associations, and our AM Spirit Tri-County group in Grove City, every group we're part of, they're talking about what a hot real estate market this is. Anyone involved in real estate is saying that. Would you say this is still a good time to buy, or should people hold off until 2020? What would be your advice?
Absolutely, it's a great time to buy. Rates are still at a historic low.
Right.
They were a little bit lower a few weeks ago, but they're still historically low. And if you look at so one of the problems we have here in Columbus, and a lot of people don't realize this, is that with the population growth that everybody's projecting,
Right.
we're going to struggle keeping up the housing demand for
Yeah.
that. We're not building enough houses. What we're
Yeah.
building is apartments.
Apartments.
actually.
Everywhere
A
you
lot
look.
of apartment.
Yeah.
Luxury
Everywhere,
apartments.
yeah.
Expensive
Luxury
apartments.
Right.
Yeah. Woo!
Yeah.
So it's a
Lordy.
great time to buy, even if you're a first time home buyer. But I think it's an especially good time to buy if you want to be an investor, if you want to buy rental properties.
Well, and I think a big part of it may actually be my generation, millennial generation, has we're nomads. We don't like to be tied down very much, and so the renting is appealing in that we can
Some
just pick up-
flexibility, yeah.
Right. So I guess that would be one thing maybe that you'd be giving up in a property purchase.
Well, one thing I know, guys, is that it's amazing how fast our time flies by. Everybody comes on the show and they think, "Oh, we're gonna have trouble with maintaining conversation," and it goes by so quickly. But week by week, one of the things that I firmly believe is that each and every day, regardless of what it is we're doing for a living or who we're interacting with, we're in a fight. We're in a fight to fully protect those and that which we love the most, our families, our possessions, and all that. Whether it's your farm, your business, your investment property, your home and auto, Gessel and Associates Insurance Agency is here to help. We've been doing this for a very long time. We can be reached at 614-697-2020. Again, 614-697-2020, or at our website, gesselins.com. That's GESSELINS.com for more information. Mike, we're almost out of time. If you would, tell our listeners again how they might reach you.
Yeah, this is Mike Evans. I'm a loan officer at First Financial Bank, and my phone number is 614-327-3127.
One more time.
614-327-3127.
Guys, I always hate to end our program. I always look forward to the next one. We'd love to have you back on. But until
Much
next week,
thanks.
and to our listeners, please be kind to one another. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Larry.